Hey there, and thanks for stopping by to check out my channel. Here we are, first day on the range with the new Tangoinnos Fire 4000 weapon-mounted laser rangefinder. What I plan to do in this video is give you a look at how my first experience on the range with this unit goes. We're going to cover things like zeroing the unit to your optic. We're going to talk about how to set up your rifle and your load in the Applied Ballistics Boss app. And then we're going to go out and shoot steel out to about 1,000 yards and show you how the unit performs in real world conditions. So if you like the sounds of it, stick around. I think it's going to be a super fun video. I've been really excited to get my hands on one of these since I heard about the launch of these. The reason is this is a weapon mounted laser rangefinder for $1,400. This might be the most affordable weapon mounted laser rangefinder on the market. It almost sounds too good to be true. So with that, I want to find out how it works and share that experience with you. So let's dig right into it. First off, let's talk about the gear we're going to run in this video. So the rifle that we're going to run will be my Barrett MRAD. You've seen this many times on the channel. This is a factory Barrett MRAD. Right now it has the 20-inch Mk22 308 barrel in it. It's 1 in 8 twists, and it's got the Mk22 suppressor on it. So as the rifle's set up right now, it's very similar to what a Mk22 contract rifle would be. You can see on the bottom side here, I actually have the Area 419 ARCA lock rail on it, which allows me to put M-lock attachments from the front of the forend to the rear of the forend. We're also going to take a look in this video of what the point of impact shift would look like on this MRAD when accessories are attached to the front as well as the rear of the handguard. I've got a lot of comments from many of you asking what point of impact shift looks like with the rifle, so we'll test that at the 100-yard line. For a bipod, we're going to run the MDT SkyPod. This is going to be a single pull. Shout out to MDT for sending this out for me to use on the channel. And as you can see, it's equipped with a pretty slick option here, or maybe upgrade. And this is going to be the pod knobs from PR Shooting Solutions. So these things are super affordable, but they really give you the ability to have a positive grip on the latch there to deploy the legs. So much bigger than the factory little bitty knob. If it's cold out or you have gloves on, this thing is super handy, makes it very quick and easy to deploy the legs. Again, PR Shooting Solutions, my code MULLETS is going to get you a little bit of a discount if you are interested in these. So for the rest of the package, we're going to be shooting the Element Theos 6-36 optic. I've used this a ton on the channel. I really love this optic. It was sent out to me by Utah Air Guns, maybe roughly a year ago. I've got a ton of rounds through it. And I tell you what, I really like this optic. The reticle is awesome for distance shooting. The biggest thing I like though is the ability to zero the turrets out without tools. You just unscrew the cap here, twist the knob, and boom, you're zeroed up. This is going to be mounted up into a Griffin armament, single piece, 34mm mount. I believe this is a 20 MOA version. It probably says on there somewhere. But Griffin armament, single piece mount with the Griffin armament diving board. So one of the most important pieces with a weapon-mounted laser rangefinder is a quality diving board. So this one from Griffin armament, the diving board actually connects to the mount with a couple of screws, but then there are pins that go between the diving board and the mount to make sure this thing is solid. And in my experience, it is a very robust mounting solution for a weapon-mounted laser rangefinder. Certainly on top will be the Tangoinnos Fire 4000 weapon-mounted laser rangefinder. We'll talk more about that in just a second. The last piece will be the ammo that we're running. We're just going to run factory Sierra 175 SMK Match Kings. So shout out to Sierra for providing the ammunition for me to use here in the video. They've been a long-time supporter of the channel. They're really helping me pump out content. And as you can see, their ammunition is going to perform very well out to distance. My experience with it has been very good. You know that 175 SMK is a proven bullet, which is why I wanted to run it through this rifle. I know the performance of that bullet. I know how it shoots out of this rifle. It's very good. So that's going to allow me to really evaluate the laser rangefinder versus fight with ammunition problems. So shout out to Sierra for the support. If you find yourself in the market for some premium long-range components, check out Sierra. They've got some great, that 175 SMK is pretty much unbeatable. There's a ton of other great bullets that they have, but thank you for their support. Now let's talk about the Tangoinnos Fire 4000 specifically. First off, my relationship with the company, everybody wants to know that. So I do know the company. I actually met these guys earlier this year. It's kind of crazy. I was actually shooting a match there in North Georgia, close to where I grew up, where I used to shoot all the time. And their crew happened to be there. So I met them through the match director. And I've been in touch with their contact here in North America for the past several weeks. And they finally were able to get me a unit when they came up with a little bit of extra inventory. These things are selling like crazy. They're only $1,400. So it took a little while for them to get the inventory to be able to send one out to me to review. So shout out to the Tangoinnos crew for giving me this unit to review. So yes, I know them. Yes, they provided the unit, but what I intend to do in this video is just give you a true look at how the unit performs out to distance. So shout out to Tangoinnos. Again, the price point in this is almost too good to be true at $1,400. So why is that? You think about weapon-mounted laser rangefinders and what's out there on the market. So at $1,400, this is probably the lowest price point that I know of for a weapon-mounted laser rangefinder with integrated ballistics, in this case, applied ballistics. These things go all the way up to $8,000, $10,000. You look at the Raptors and the Mars. I don't even know all of them. Integrated IR, 1550 nanometer lasers. They don't show up under night vision, etc. Price gets crazy on these units. So for a unit like this to come in at $1,400, it puts this within reach of every practical precision rifleman out there. You think about the optics that we're running, the rifles, the suppressors. We're spending so much more than $1,400 on each piece of kit. This thing really is quite the bargain at the price point it's at. You'll notice this puts it in kind of the price point a little bit under some of the other very popular options on the market, one that I've been using previously, that Vortex Impact 4000. So there's a handful of differences. Let me know in the comments if you want to see a comparison video. This one I'm going to keep it just to the Fire 4000, giving them out here for my first day. So weapon-mounted laser rangefinders, if you're not familiar with those, really quick, these are invaluable for the practical precision rifleman. The ability to rapidly range a target through your rifle optic, it can't be beat. X-Ring has already put out a review video on this where he compared weapon-mounted laser rangefinders, the Fire 4000 for example, to handheld, and I tell you what, the weapon-mounted just smokes the handheld in the ability to rapidly engage that target. It is crazy. If you're into practical precision rifle, DMR matches, NRL matches, realistic practical precision type shooting, you have to have a weapon-mounted laser rangefinder, and in my opinion, the Fire 4000 is a great option. So with that out of the way, what are the capabilities of this unit? So the Fire 4000, the big thing that you're going to notice is it does not have onboard weather. It doesn't have a weather station on this unit, and really, I don't care. So the other unit that's in a does. I've had that unit now maybe going on 2 years, and I tell you what, I quit calibrating mine because it won't calibrate. So I don't even know if the weather function on that unit is correct. So the fact that this one doesn't have a weather function on it, I really don't care. And as you're going to see in the video here today, it's going to perform just fine. So how do we overcome the weather situation? Well, it's pretty simple. We all always have our phone on us, and you can use your phone to pair to this unit through Bluetooth and send weather data to the unit. And that's exactly what I'm going to do in this video. I like simple. You can use other Kestrels, Garmin's, applied ballistics type units to push data between this, but really all I want to do is use my phone for weather and then use the internal ABI ballistic solver on this unit to put rounds down range. That's something I'm always going to have on me. I don't have to keep up extra batteries on my phone. I'm always watching it anyway. So the ability to use my phone to me is very valuable. Is it the best solution out there? I don't know. Maybe some of these other tools are better, but for me, the phone is the move. The lack of weather in here, I really don't care about because as you'll see in this video, my phone worked just fine. Now with that, there's a little bit of a problem. The phone, especially out here where I shoot, there's no service. So I can't pull in local weather right now. So what I had to do just before I lost service out there on the highway, I went ahead and pushed the weather from my phone into this unit to make sure that I had something rough loaded. And then when I got out here, I knew the forecast for today, this afternoon, was going to be in the 40s, so I can manually adjust that temperature up into the 40s. Temperature is not a huge difference. And then your phone has onboard pressure. So you're still able to pull in local pressure off of your phone. So with a rough temperature number, I plug that in manually, pull pressure off my phone that I can get without service. And then wind, I just kind of ballpark it. So I've been shooting a lot in the wind out here. Yes, a wind meter would make this easier and more accurate, but do I always have one with me? No. So I ballpark wind. I try to go in 5 to 10 mile an hour increments and get a rough direction which you can plug into the app. And that's exactly what I'm going to do here today, and you'll see how functional that is. Other capabilities of this unit has an integrated visible laser that you'll zero at the 100-yard line. We'll show that here in just a little while. It has the ability to swap between yards and meters, makes it very simple. It has brightness adjustment, it has the ability to scan or live range. So as you move the rifle, the range is going to pop up. And then it has the ability to swap basically between internal ballistic solver and external ballistic solver. So say you are running that applied ballistics Kestrel or a Garmin, you can use that external solver for the data. But in my case, I'm going to be using the internal ballistic solver for the shooting out here today. And then the coolest thing about this unit is it runs Applied Ballistics. We all know Applied Ballistics. They have a huge name, a great reputation, and that is a ballistic solver that we're going to use in this unit. You'll also find the unit has an integrated port for a remote. I don't run remotes on my rifles because I am constantly moving these around, and I don't want to fumble with moving the remote around, but if you are going to put this on one rifle and leave it, you can move a remote. It's got a cord in it, so you're not going to lose it. You don't have to keep up with an extra battery for that remote. I really like the remote solution for this unit. So with that, what else are we going to do in the video? Well, we're going to move down to the 100-yard line. I'm going to show you the zeroing process. I'm going to show you how I load the rifle and ballistic information from my bullet into the app and get that push to make sure that's working. Then we're going to move out and shoot steel at distance. And last, we're going to wrap up here with the review summary of my experience running this unit out here for the first time. If you like the sounds of it, stick around. And before we go down to 100 yards and start shooting and getting the unit set up, I got to ask you to do me a solid. I'm really trying to grow this channel. I'm seeing a ton of growth, a ton of views, a ton of new subscribers, and I thank each and every one of you that are supporting me. If you're stopping by and you're new to my channel, do me a solid and hit that subscribe button. I'm trying to get to 100,000 subscribers here in the next couple of months. For me, that's a pretty huge milestone. I'm really excited about the growth and all those of you that are supporting me. If you're watching this and you are subscribed, thank you for that support. Thank you for coming back. But again, if you're not subscribed, do me a solid, hit that subscribe button. I find it really encouraging, and it's going to help me on my path to get to 100,000. So with that, let's move down to 100 yards and start getting this thing set up and shooting. Before we can stretch out and shoot any distance, we need to start here at the 100-yard line and make sure we have the Fire 4000 correctly installed, zeroed, and we have our correct ballistic information plugged into the AB Boss app, so that the information we get out at distance is correct and our data is true to the rifle that we're shooting. So it's really simple, doesn't take long, but I like to start here at the 100-yard line with everything I do. Now the first thing I did here at the 100-yard line is ran through and made sure that the MRAD was zeroed. Now I shot off of the bipod, I also shot off of the tripod because I wanted to check and see if there was any kind of zero shift out of this MRAD. I get a lot of comments about that, so I'll chat through what I did. The lower right-hand dot, I fired 3 rounds, cold bore, just to foul the barrel, get a little bit of heat in it, great group, zeroed up, no problems. I then went up to the upper right-hand dot where I fired 5 rounds, prone with the bipod at the front of the forend, and as you can see, those are zeroed up. They went into a group that's about 1 inch, really solid performance. I ran the chronograph on that group and got an average of something like 2585 feet per second, with a spread of about 50 feet per second across the 5 rounds, SD of 16, and a G7 BC of something like 0.263, if I remember correctly. Then I wanted to test off of the tripod to see what my zero shift looked like, so I moved to the upper left-hand dot, and I got on the 2-vets tripod. I mounted it here to the rear of the handguard, and I fired 5 rounds. And as you can see, that 5-round group actually landed low, 0.3 mils, and right, 0.2. So it did appear there was a zero shift there off of the tripod. Now we'll hold that thought, I did not run the chronograph. Then I moved down to the lower left-hand dot where I fired 5 rounds, again prone with the bipod at the forend, or at the front of the forend. I ran the chronograph, and as you can see, those 5 rounds stacked into a beautiful group, zeroed up just like they should. So the zero returned to where it should be. And my average speed was something like 2590 feet per second. Spread was a little smaller at about 24, SD of 8, and a G7 BC of 0.268. So really happy to see the rifle returning to zero. Velocity performance is pretty consistent. And then I was curious, was the zero shift off the tripod me? So I ended up just moving the bipod, that skypod, back to the rear here of the forend, where I fired 5 more rounds at that lower left-hand dot. And as you can see, out of those 5 rounds, they're still very much zeroed up. So even moving just the bipod from the front to the rear of the forend really didn't seem to move the zero that much versus shooting off of the tripod. Now, my opinion, the data that I'm showing here is really, doesn't tell us much of anything. It's a sample size of 1. It's my first time really testing zero shift off the tripod using the MRAD with the Area 419 Arca lock plate. You'll have to let me know in the comments what you think about the performance. I'm inclined to believe that the zero shift I saw off of the tripod might have been more me than it was the rifle, given when I came prone and moved the bipod back on the Area 419 using the rear bag, it was zeroed up just like it should. So that's a little bit of a side point, but it is something I wanted to explore with this rifle now that I've got the Area 419 Arca lock on it. Curious what the zero shift looked like. For this video, we'll make sure all the shooting we do is supported off of the forend, on the bipod to make sure there's no zero shift issues in the data that we see downrange. Now with that, let's talk about the Fire 4000. We're zeroed up. That's the first thing you have to do with your rifle. Get a good zero. At your zero, now we're going to work with the Fire 4000. So we want to make sure it's correctly installed. It's pretty simple. There's 2 Allen screws here on the right-hand side. They include a wrench you can use to torque this thing down. Make sure you're installed correctly and snug. Also make sure you can see the screen. As you can see this setup, I'm running the Griffin single-piece mount with their diving board. This diving board includes 2 pins that stick down into the mount to hold it very secure. So you want to have a secure diving board on your mount to hold your rangefinder. You don't want this thing moving around. So make sure you're properly torqued and installed on a quality mount. The next thing we're going to do is talk about the zero process. It's super simple. What I like to do is actually measure from the laser down to the center of the scope, and we'll use that to determine our offset. So I'm going to hold my tape measure kind of centered up as best I can here on the laser. And I'm going to come down to the center of the scope, which I'm going to call that set of screws there in the mount. And just for rough numbers, I'm going to call that 2.75 inches. So my laser is 2.75 inches above line of sight on the scope. From here, let's go to the calculator and figure out what that means in mils at 100 yards. So we'll do 2.75 inches divided by 3.6, which is 1 mil at 100 yards. And that's going to come out to be 0.76, or roughly 0.8 mils. What I'm going to do now is turn on the unit and get the visible laser going here, okay? And I'm going to point at my target downrange. And what you'll see downrange, I actually am able to see the dot on the white paper. So that's pretty impressive. Right now it's sunny. We have some decent cloud cover, but on the white paper I'm able to see the red dot. If I move over to the cardboard, you can see it. So that's pretty impressive performance there. Now I need to get zeroed up. So what I'm going to do is use a tool, flathead screwdriver, and I have a windage knob here on the right hand side and an elevation on the top. And I'm just going to go into my scope and bring the visible laser over in windage. So it's a whole lot easier. Like if you go up on this license plate, reflective, bring that impact over, boom, now I'm zeroed up on the windage. And now my elevation, I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to stay on the license plate because I can see the dots so well. That's just an old license plate that I have, but I'm going to bring this up. Ooh, there we go. To roughly 0.8 mils above my crosshair. I'm going to bring that down just a little bit. And let's keep the windage over just a bit. There we are. So I did a little measuring from the bottom. We'll go on the C right here. From the bottom of the C to the top of the C on the license plate was 2.75 inches exactly. And as you can see, I'm on the bottom, laser's on the top. We are perfectly zeroed with this laser. Now to use this laser, I'm zeroed at my actual 100-yard zero on my turrets. For this thing to read true downrange, we have to make sure when you're lasing, you're on your zero for your scope. You cannot be dialed up or else you'll get wrong data. Now with that, zero process is super simple. Let's just turn off our laser. There we go. And let's talk about inputting the ballistic data to make sure our load is correct before we start stretching out to distance. Next up, let's go in and make sure our rifle and load data is correctly loaded into the AB Boss app before we stretch out to distance. So this app is pretty simple to use, very intuitive. I have the app open right now to the HUD you can see at the bottom. So this is where we'll go to view all of our main shooting information and the profile that's loaded. Across the bottom you have targets. You can use this to set up maybe a range card where you're shooting multiple targets. And you have an actual range card here where you can scroll and look at data from whatever parameter you put in out to whatever parameter. So for now, let's stay on the HUD. At the top you can see my profile is loaded a 20-inch 308, and I'll show you how to edit that. I have my weather information across the top. I have a firing solution there in the center, and then I have the ability to pull in multiple different things such as heading, inclination, pressure, and temperature for weather, as well as input my wind. So how do you set up your rifle? So at the bottom, you're going to go to the pencil with the pad, And for this one, I'm going to set up a 20-inch 308, so I'll click on that profile. Now, I've already done the work, and we'll just chat through what that is. At the top, you can name it. So if I just click on that, I can rename whatever this profile is. You know, maybe I want to say that's 2590 or something, but I'll leave it at 2585. Come down, you have a bullet library. So I'm shooting the 175 SMK. If you were shooting a different bullet, you can go into the library here and pull up all kinds of different bullets out of the AB app. It's super cool. For now though, let's just stick with what we've got. I'm going to stay on the G7 BC. I know that's a .308 bullet. I'm going to run a G7 BC of .265 based on what we got out of the FX True Ballistic Chronograph. And I know that's in the ballpark based on prior use of this rifle. 175 grain bullet, length is 1.24 inches. Velocity, maybe we wanted to change that up to like 2587. You just click on it to change it. Zero range, I actually think we're like at 97 yards right now, which is a little bit goofy, but we'll change that. Zero height, nope. Sight height, I know that on this rifle, I actually think it's something like 2.7 inches, so we'll change that. Twist rate, this is a 1 in 8 twist barrel, so it's pretty fast for a 308. And there's no zero offset. Now at the bottom, you have the ability to input multiple velocities for temperature. We're not going to do that today. I'm just going to run with the one velocity that I got out of the FX True Ballistic Chronograph at 2587. So that's really all there is to setting up your profile. Now at the bottom, I'll click the little crosshairs to go back to the HUD. Now weather. This unit does not have onboard weather, but your cell phone certainly does. Now I don't have service out here. And without service, it's not going to pull in temperature, but I can still do things like wind and pressure. So your phone has an onboard pressure sensor. So all I have to do is click that pressure button, boom, and it pulls in current pressure. Now earlier, I did pull in weather before I lost service, and to do that, all you would do is go down to the bottom to the cloud. You can kind of scroll up and say, take a measurement. And if I had service, boom, now it's going to pull in weather from the nearest weather station. In my experience, it's pretty close. But as you can see right now, it did not pull in temperature. Still showing 36. I actually think it's a little bit warmer. So I could just flip that over, and let's just put in 42. I'm putting that in based on what I know the forecast was supposed to be today. So there we are. It's showing a density altitude of 3792. No clue if that's correct. We'll find out when we start shooting. Wind, it is almost dead calm. I'm going to say there's a wind out of like the 2 o'clock, so I'll just tap there on the wind meter. And let's just say that's 5 miles an hour. So there's my wind. Now, how do we know that we're paired up to the rangefinder? So it's been on this whole time. And all I have to do to make sure I'm paired is I can click the range button, and boom, there I've ranged. Actually, that should be, oh, that is my zero at 100 yards. No, it's saying 97 for my zero. So 97 yards on my zero, but the point of that is when I click range on this thing, it's going to pull in the information out of the rangefinder, so I know we're paired. And with that, now we're ready to go out and start shooting some distance. So from here, I've got my weather pulled in either from your nearest weather station or the manual input that I did there to change the temperature. I've got my wind put in. I've got my ballistic information loaded in. Now I don't need the phone anymore. With that, let's move out to distance and start seeing if we can connect with some steel. Here we go with our first steel. I ran down and set up a 10-inch circle on the left and a 2/3 zipstick on the right. And I rode out here a ways until I decided to stop. Found kind of a dry spot here where I could shoot, and I figured let's try to engage some targets. So all I'm going to do is point my crosshairs at. I'll go on the 2/3 zipstick. I'll reach up here and turn on the unit. Okay, it's on. While aiming at the target, I'll range 431 yards. It's calling for 2.3 up and right 0.2. Let's put it on that right, or no, let's go on the 10-inch circle on the left. Just off the left edge. A little bit more wind than we thought. Pack. Pack. Impact. So elevation looks good. The wind has picked up. I might update that in the app before we push out further. Let's keep going. Here we are back in one of my favorite shooting positions, off the rocks. So we'll go ahead and take a look at our targets out there. I'll turn on the unit. So just a hold. Unit's on. Oh, I double tapped it. So if I just tap right there on the target, 661 yards, it's calling for a point, or 4.9 up and right 0.7. So I'm just gonna go ahead and hold that. Let's try the 2/3 IPSC first. Here we go. Just off the right edge. Impact. Try the 10-inch circle. Impact. That dropped a little bit low. Impact. Back to the 2/3. Impact. Pretty easy. Let's push further. Here we are, a little further out. Let's see where we're at. So, got my 2 targets out there. We'll just point right at them. Go ahead and laze it. 830 yards, calling for 7.2 up. And right 0.9. 7.2. So I'm just going to hold that in the reticle. It's a lot of elevation. Way down there in the bottom. Let's zoom out a bit. I want to hold as much as I can so I don't have to get into dialing. So 7.2 and right 0.8. Just under it. Windage look good. Impact. 2/3 IPSC. Off the left edge. That was 1 mil right. Let's try the 10-inch circle. Impact. Impact. So as you can see, I'm dead on the wind hold right there. I'm 0.8 right. We're impacting the 2/3 and that 10-inch circle. Let's keep pushing. So far, so good. Just like that, we'll keep pushing further. I should be back a little over 1,000 yards here. So astute viewers will notice I'm now wearing different sunglasses, and that's because I want to try polarized lenses. If you saw the X-ring review of the unit, you remember that he mentioned polarized lenses are not able to see the screen. So I want to test that for myself and see what my shooting experience is with polarized lenses. So these are just polarized Oakleys, non-prescription. With that, we'll go ahead and turn the unit on. So I can barely see that screen right now. So in fact, if my head is level, right now I'm not able to see that screen. So in order to see it, I have to tip my head to about here. So a handful of degrees of cant to be able to see the screen. But I can at least see it if I tip my head. So let's go ahead and find our targets. And we'll point out there at them. And we'll range them. Now when I look up like this, I cannot see that screen. I have to tip over. 1087 is calling for 12 mils and 1.2 right. So I'll go ahead and dial that on. Now the interesting thing about this unit, it's really cool, even though I can't actually see this screen right now unless I tip my head, when I range, I can feel it in the rifle. This thing has a capability to buzz. Nothing crazy, it's not gonna move you around, but just enough that you can feel it and kind of hear it in your ears to know it took a range. Oh wow. Okay, so here we go. I'll start right 1.2. Man, it feels a lot calmer than that. Let's just go right 1. Oh, wow, wind's almost dead. So we're gonna go over here to like a point, call it like a 0.3. Elevation look decent. Top that left edge. Off the right edge. Impact. Just over the head. Just under it. This is where our velocity spread's not helping us. Impact. Impact. So I'm going to call that 0.3. Impact. That one dropped way low. So that was a handful of impacts out there on a 12x20 2/3 Zipsic at 1087. And as you can see, if I tip my head, I can see that. Now, you'll notice that my windage was way off. So this thing was calling for 1.2. I was actually holding 0.3. That would be on me as the user to make that adjustment. And I didn't do it prior to shooting. I was banking on the wind being consistent. But with that, let's go ahead and see how far we can just shoot this unit. So remember, I need to return to 0. So I'm gonna go back to my 0. There we are. And now let's just look up there in some rocks and see what I can hit. So hitting the wrong button there. It's not picking it up. Okay. There we go. 1592. 1603. Again, I'm just hitting rocks up there on the hill in the snow. 1627. 1598. Yeah, it's not getting that. So it seems like in these conditions, and I'm just ranging rocks in the snow, take my polarized lenses off so I can see it clearly. And we're back on the targets at 1090, 12 mils. So it seems like the furthest it's ranging right now is about 1600 in the conditions that are on the rocks. So there you have it. A look at my first day out with the new Tangoinnos Fire 4000 weapon-mounted laser rangefinder. Now I'm going to run through my thoughts and experience out here on the first day, as well as the things that I like about this unit. But while I'm doing that, you got to let me know in the comments down below what you thought about the performance of this unit, especially considering that $1,400 price point. Again, I feel like $1,400 makes this thing very affordable and within reach of almost every practical precision rifleman out there. In my opinion, this is a must-have piece of kit. So what did we see for performance? Well, first off, we moved down to the 100-yard line, got the rifle all zeroed up. All the groups were 1 MOA-ish. Very happy with the accuracy of that Sierra 175 SMK load. Out of the box, I was zeroed, so I didn't have to tweak the rifle at all. Then we ran through the zeroing process on the Fire 4000, and I found it very simple. I was actually really impressed. I was able to see that visible red laser on the target board there at the 100-yard line. The same can't be said for all of the weapon-mounted laser rangefinders that I've used. So it's a win to me that that laser showed up on the 100-yard cardboard and paper and then really visible on that license plate that I use for the reflection. Zeroing process was simple. Once you know your height over bore, at 100 yards, you know 1 mil is 3.6 inches. You divide that out, get a mil solution in your scope, and then boom, you're zeroed. So it took just a couple of minutes to get zeroed up. I really like that process. Then the process of loading the data from my rifle and my bullet into the app. Again, very simple. That app, AB Boss, I found to be very intuitive. Last night I got everything set up within about 30 minutes, just kind of playing through the app. I did read the manual on the Fire 4000. It's a great manual, by the way, very well explains how to use this unit and get it set up. But the app is simple. You navigate into the settings. It'll hold a number of different rifles and loads. It'll only hold one in the unit at a time, which to me is fine because I'm always going to have my phone. I can always push over that current information. But loading velocity, BC, weather, all of the information that you need, height over bore, very intuitive, very easy, and very fast. I also like the fact that you can, when paired, range with the rangefinder and see the data show up in the app so that you know you are paired and that your solution has loaded over to the unit. That was one thing I wasn't sure about, but out here at the range, when you range it and it shows back up in the app, you know you're paired, and then obviously the solution that I was shooting was working out here. So 100-yard line, zeroing, pairing, setting up the unit, very, very simple. I also like how this thing mounts. It just uses a little hex or two little hex screws right here. You're not trying to fidget with a little wrench to get it in there. If you know what I'm talking about, the other units on the market have a little wrench that can make that quite difficult. So just a little hex, very simple to install this unit. And I also like the slim profile of this. It's a little bit shorter, less bulky, and lighter than other options on the market. Then we moved out and started shooting steel at distance. We shot that 10-inch circle there at like 430 yards. No problem connecting. I think I had a first round go off with some wind. And then we connected no problem. The elevation solution was spot on. Pretty cool to be able to use the G7BC out of the FX True Ballistic Chronograph. Shout out to Utah Airguns for sending that out, by the way. Pull that G7BC out of the FX True Ballistic Chronograph, plug it into the AB Boss app, and boom, my solution was almost perfect out to 1,080 yards. So at 430, 10-inch plate, no problem. We had a ton of impacts once I nailed down the windage. What I noticed right there, the return on this thing is so fast. By the time you click the range button and look up, your range is already there with your solution. Crazy how fast it is. I'm really impressed with that. That is, to me, a major benefit and not common across all the other units that I've used like this in a roughly similar price point. So shout out to the speed. We then moved back here to 650 yards, had no problems connecting on the 2/3 Zipstick or the 10-inch plate. Again, I felt like the firing solution was solid. The wind, a little bit of error in that, but that's me. You know, I can't blame the solver or the unit with the range for the wind. That's on me. I believe here we had a first round miss, and then I was able to follow up with a second round impact very fast. So elevation solution was good. Range seemed solid. I think this was like 660, if I remember correctly. Then we moved back over here to about 830. Again, super fast on the range, very accurate range. Elevation solution seemed to be spot on. And then finally we wrapped up out there at 1,080, where range seemed good. Elevation solution seemed good. I think it was like 12 mils if I remember correctly. We did have some misses out there, but remember the wind was a big miss for me on the first round. So the unit was calling for 1.2 mils of windage to the right. That was on me. I still had like 8 mile an hour of 2 o'clock wind plugged in, and it basically died out here. So my first round, elevation landed good at 12 mils, went just off the right edge of the plate. I did end up making, I think, like 4 impacts out there on a 2/3 Zipstick at 1,080 at 0.3 mils right, so almost a mil less wind than I had plugged in. I should have been watching that, doing a better job of it. I'm sorry about that, but those things happen. Also notice the impact or the hit percent out there wasn't as good as I'd hoped. You start pushing out to 1,080 with a 20-inch 308, 175 SMK, things start to open up a little bit, and your ability to read that wind becomes very important. So I felt like the elevation solution was good at 1,080 at 12 mils. That's in line with data I've used on this rifle previously, so it wasn't out of line. Just the windage and my ability to connect. So Overall, out to 1,080 yards, I feel like the unit ranged really well, rapidly provided me an accurate firing solution, and allowed me to put those rounds on target. So let me know what you thought. Other things we did in the video here was use the unit to try to range as far as I could. Again, I was ranging up on the snowy mountain there. It seemed like on rocks, it was returning out to about 1,600 yards. I'll get a steel plate put up sometime, see how far we can actually range steel. But 1,600 for a unit that cost 1,400 bucks, I'm pretty impressed with that. Also, I did want to test, remember the polarized lenses? If you watch the X-Ring video, he mentioned the fact that polarized lenses don't allow you to see the screen on this. First off, I need to give a shout out to the screen. The screen is very crisp, very clear, and very visible to your eye. So I'm impressed with the screen. There's a ton of information in there. Really all I care about is the range and the elevation and windage solution. There's some other stuff in there around like time of flight, velocity, energy, all kinds of cool data. None of it really is that important to me. I'm sure there are use cases where that would be valuable, maybe hunting where you want to know energy downrange. So that's all in there, and that's cool. Very visible, very crisp and clean. Put the polarized glasses on, and similar to X-Ring, if my head was level, the screen was black. So in order to see, I had to tilt my head a couple of degrees, and then I could see that screen. And ultimately, as far as shooting, it worked. So while, yeah, it was black with my head level, I was still able to tilt my head and quickly get my elevation solution to put those rounds downrange. So that is one thing I noticed. Shout out to X-Ring for bringing that up. And I did want to test that for myself to see if I had a similar solution or similar maybe experience to what X-Ring did, and I do. Overall, my first experience with this is very good. I'm impressed with the unit. Again, it costs 1,400 bucks, very affordable, doesn't have the onboard weather, but I really didn't see that as an issue. Paired up with my phone, pushed the weather across, and it worked. It actually worked very well out to 1,080 yards with a 308. Again, the size and the form factor on this thing, very solid. And the ability, oh, the other thing that I forgot to mention, I really like, and I noticed it when I was wearing the polarized lenses, is being valuable. So while the polarized, I couldn't see the screen with my head level, the unit actually has the ability to vibrate when you range. Again, not aggressive, just a little bit of like a little buzz. And you feel a little, kind of buzz, but you hear it kind of in your jawbone. So you hear like a little buzzing noise. And you know when you feel that, you got a range. So even though I had the polarized lenses on, I couldn't see the screen with my head level. I could hear and feel that buzz, look up, I knew the range would be there. So that is a really cool feature that this thing has, kind of more valuable than I thought it would be. So we're probably just rambling here. Let's go ahead and wrap the video up. Would love to hear your thoughts on the Tangoinnos Fire 4000. If you're in the market for one, again, remember, Tangoinnos sent this unit to me for free to use here on the channel and review and bring the experience to you. But based on my experience today, I would feel comfortable spending my own money on this unit. We'll see how it holds up. That was kind of the same takeaway that X-Ring had. How is it going to hold up over time? I have the same kind of question, and time will tell. I plan to use this thing exclusively moving forward in my content. So you're going to see a ton more footage with the Tangoinnos Fire 4000. But again, I would feel comfortable spending my own money on it based on today's experience, with the one caveat being, I don't know what it's going to be for durability and longevity, but time will tell. We're going to keep putting rounds on it. So if you enjoyed this video, do me a solid and help me grow this channel. Subscribe is huge. I'm on a journey to get to 100,000, and I appreciate each and every one of you that are subscribed. And if you're watching this and you're not subscribed and you like the content, hit the subscribe button to show me that you want to be in line for my next video drop. From there, like it, comment. Would love to hear from you down below. What else do you want to see me do with this unit? So with that, thanks for watching. I hope you'll join me in my next video.